right. We are back with some more Shadowdark. Last we left off, we were finishing up, rounding out our starting location and origin village for our two adventurers, Zoran and Clara. Zoran is a half-orc fighter, and Clara is a human priest. And both of them hail from Treefall, of Zoran from the slums, and Clara from the Artisan District, specifically the Temple of Ord, named the Saints Citadel. And I figured I would start this session off with, we have an inciting incident that needs to happen going forward. But one thing I want to do is come up with a name for our important NPC by the name of Brianne, who we know is somebody of importance, or else rumors wouldn't be spreading that she had been kidnapped by a band of sorcerers, of which we now understand, our characters understand, Zoran and Clara have found out via more discussions and talking with each other, and Zoran found out through his background contacts that this Brianne actually left Treefall of her own accord. So the rumors that she was kidnapped is of a different sort of thing. But what I want to do is, who is this important NPC? What I want to do is roll up like what she might be. Like, is she someone of importance? Is she I want to first roll a d3 to see what area of the town that she hails from, and that'll help us narrow it down. So 1 is the slums, 2 is Artisan District, and 3 is the market. 3. So she comes from the market. Does she have anything to deal with the black market? Because the black market is a major installation within the regular market of Treefall, I'm going to say that it's likely. So we're going to roll 2 d20s, and we're going to take the highest, and anything that is 11 or higher means yes. 17 and 16, so yes. So that is an emphatic yes. Now, I think that's simple enough for our needs. So Brianne is a who involved with the black market. So I think that she is going to be a trader. She might be a seller. So let us roll what their ancestry is real quick. Let's roll a d12. And so Brianne is an elf. She is an elf. Elf. And what is her wealth? I'm going to roll d6. 1. She is poor. She is poor. And her renown is definitely locally known. Locally known. And I'm going to roll up one of her traits. Actually, yeah, one of her traits. Let us do that with shops and standard shops. So let's roll up one of the standard shops and see where she hails from and what her like background is. Because she's in the market, I'm going to say that she's probably a merchant there or something like that. So let's just roll a d10. Oh, I need a d10. That's a 2. So she's a butcher. Butcher. Okay. So people know her as a butcher. And she is involved with the black market somehow. So that makes sense. So something tells me that this person probably has a debt to pay or is trying to pay off something, being poor as she is trying to make do with her lot. So now we need to wrap that up into the story. But before we do that, we're going to have an inciting incident happen where a violent windstorm kicks up without warning on the outskirts of a treefall. And the setting is this, basically. Treefall is a small village nestled on the foothills of the mountains on the within the Perilous Badlands. Let me show you the map right here. So Treefall is in this far northeast hex over here, and this range of mountains, which we have not named. I don't think I've named them yet. So this range of mountains, and the village of Treefall is nestled at the foothills of those mountains, basically in the beginning of this large grassland area. And wind picks up from the grasslands going over the mountains, so this massive windstorm at high speeds, trees, bushes, anything that's dead on the ground is being whipped up into a flurry. Think like a dust storm in the Midwest of the United States. Those can get pretty brutal. Lots of high winds, not quite tornado, but it's that kind of thing. So all of a sudden, the entire town rushes to lock up the doors, lock up everything. And I think this is something that might happen from time to time. So there is an element of procedure that happens. Most people haven't. So I think that Clara is going to suggest that they go to the temple, whereas that is the largest structure and is made of stone and can withstand the wind better than the tavern. I think Zoran goes, that is fine, let's get out of here. So they leave the tavern and immediately step out into the open air that's whipping around. And I think we're going to have a couple of rolls here for the characters. Now, because this is a violent windstorm, I think the wind itself is not that dangerous, but visibility is going to be an issue. Flying debris is going to be an issue. And getting lost is going to be an issue. Not necessarily getting lost in town, but being spun around and then not knowing where they are until they find a building, right? So I think this is going to be it's either going to be a wisdom check or a dex check, depending on what happens here. So what I think the DC for this is going to be hard. But I think Clara's background is going to come in helpful here. It is going to come in helpful in this scenario. Her background was a scout. observation, speed, and stealth. I think she's going to be able to tap into that knowledge of moving around in areas that are better suited to staying low. So therefore, hopefully, avoiding the wind. Zoran doesn't have that, but what that's basically going to do is I'm going to give the party one roll using Clara as she's leading the way. So that's basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to roll wisdom with advantage, and I add 1. Using the advantage because I'm arguing that her background can help her here, and wisdom for perception and sort of observation of the area and stuff like that. So she gets +1 on this, and 15 is the target number. Well, we get 18 for the advantage, and so 19 total. We have a Clara definitely maneuvering around in and around the area, pretty, not stealthily, but pretty effectually, darting from one building to the next, dodging, flying by debris and everything, and then telling Zoran to come up, hold, wait. She's gonna go up ahead, scout it, do the same thing, and they make it to the temple. And so now there's this storm happening, and they've made it to this temple, and this is a temple to Ord, who is a neutral deity of Shadowdark, and I believe that his main shtick is that he is they are worshipped for their magic stuff. Let me find their. I need to find. Oh my lord, where is the deities list? Here, priest, thief, wizard. I know alignment. There we go. And so Ord, the unbending, the wise, the secret keeper. He is the god of magic, knowledge, secrets, and equilibrium. So I envision this temple kind of very modestly decorated with various, I wouldn't say pews per se, but large benches on the sides, up against the wall. And they come in there bursting, through one of the side doors, not the main open door. That door has been barred shut because of the wind. But they find a side door, and they're able to get in. And the head priest there lets them in and sees Clara and definitely allows her to come in with her guest Zoran. And they find a spot to settle, and then they listen to the wind as it dies down, not from its actual windiness, but inside the temple, the atmosphere of the temple, the spiritual nature of the temple exudes from the altar, the central altar, which is a single large orb, about a crystal orb, about the size of a human head, just resting on a black, velvet black desk, lectern, if you will. And that has been covered over by a sheer white cover. And there is a obvious sort of ring of reverence around it, where no one is really stepping into that space, because this town definitely knows that it is important to keep their distance from religious artifacts, especially if they're used in communion and used for communication and communion with the deity. So there are people bustling around. There are people huddling up in the corners and in the central main chamber of the temple. I named it the Saints Citadel. So the Saints Citadel is housing a lot of refugees from the storm, and there's lots of people here. But oddly enough, it's very quiet. There's whispering, and there's some sort of murmurings and worried looks, and people looking up to the ceiling, where the ceiling of the temple is rattling a little bit, where the frame is being shaken by the wind outside. But inside, it is oddly more quiet than you would think. You would think that the echo of a large space like this would fill with a cacophony of sound, especially with the wind. But that is not the case here. So Clara and Zoran find a space to sit and sort of gather their thoughts. And Zoran pats himself down, makes sure he has everything. And I'm going to give him a roll here, only because he was not very... I'm not going to do that. I take that back. I was going to have him roll to see if he lost anything during that, but because Clara did a good enough job with getting them here to the temple, I think that's good enough. So, where are we now? We are currently in the Saints Citadel in Treefall, and Zoran and Clara are continuing to talk about the rumors and what to do, what can they do now. Well, they can't do anything about this current town rumor, but the immediate situation is that there is a deadly windstorm happening. And Clara says, I need to attend to those who are hurt. So she gets up and walks away and starts to do her duties on the hallowed ground that she's in. So she goes over to people and starts casting. I believe she does have Cure Wounds. I'm going to make sure that she does. Yes. And Zoran is going to mull over the pieces that he has about Brianne. So he is going to recall his conversations. And doing so, I think what we need to do is we need to fill out more information on what might have happened to Brianne in town to make her leave. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to the important NPCs, which is under Zoran. Here we go. Brianne, involved with the black market, elf, poor, locally known, and is a butcher. So when did she disappear? Let us ask. I'm going to roll on the distance chart, which is a d6, and basically, close, near, and far is going to be recent, not too long ago, a long time ago. So close. So that is basically very recent. So when did she go missing? Recently noticed as missing. So probably from her coworker or the owner of the butcher shop was complaining that she didn't come into work probably, this morning. So probably most likely went missing the previous day. And I think that is the information that Zoran is coming up with. And while he's cowering is the wrong word, while he's huddled up in the protection of the temple, he's thinking over the conversations that he's had over the last few hours before the storm hit, and we're sort of recalling that information as like a flashback. I'm going to have him do a roll with advantage with his connections to the underbelly of the market and with the various dens. He's going to ask, or rather, I'm going to ask the Oracle, did this woman, she left of her own accord, did she leave because of a bad deal in town? I'm going to give this a 50-50, but still do a 50-50 odds. 12, which means yes. So she left due to a deal gone bad, gone south. Okay, left due to a deal gone south. So this deal gone south, we're going to roll up some themes here. And what did this deal, and did our friend Zoran figure this out? I'm going to have him roll intelligence to put 2 and 2 together. I'm going to say with disadvantage here. And this is hard. He has a -2, so he basically needs a 17 or higher. But with the disadvantage. And I'm making this roll mostly because the information is there in the knowledge that he was given. But he is not a very smart person. So I don't think that he'd be able to put those pieces together on what exactly this deal was and stuff like that. But he has these connections, so he has the information. But is he capable of putting it together? And that is how we can separate player knowledge and character knowledge. We can always defer to our character stats to help us make those rolls to be more immersed in what their decisions are. So let us roll with disadvantage. It is a hard DC on this one. 12 and 10, so it's a 10 -2, which is 8, which is not enough. So the information is that it's there, but all he knows is that a deal went south and she had to leave. So now we have a situation where there is an NPC that is probably of need of help, and Claire is probably going to be okay with helping. And he's got this itch in the back of his brain going, there's something not right here. I got to figure this out. So when I created Zoran, I didn't really fill out too much of his personality. I was going to allow that to come out, and I feel like he leaned really heavily into calling on his old contacts for help. So I feel like he's easy to tap into the seedier side of his background. So while he's not that smart, and honestly, he's not that charismatic in terms of being be a smooth talker, but he's blunt, and he gets right to the point, and he's factual, and he sees a situation in which somebody needs assistance, and he is a strong personality or a strong person, and feels that with his strength and Claire's obvious ties to healing, maybe we can help this person. So I think he's pretty forthright. So Zoran goes and finds Clara and proposes a mission of sorts after the storm to go and see if they can't suss out what's going on with this rumor of this missing butcher by the name of Brianne. And Clara basically goes, well, those in need are definitely ones that we can try to help, no? So she's on board as well. So now we have Clara and Zoran agreeing to go on their first mission together, trying to figure out the mystery of the missing butcher. But I feel like they need to do some more in town sort of roles to help with the storm. I think as she is going to do a few roles for her spell casting. I think for her, I think we're gonna do a roll overall to see how well that she uses her innate abilities, her divine gifts, to cure people. And we're gonna have Zoran do a roll for his strength and his ability to help repair and to put things back together again as the wind dies down. So both of them are going to help the town sort of repair itself over the after the storm subsides. So let us do a few rolls. I think with Zoran, we're going to have him be the darker color, and Clara be the lighter color. So I'm going to do their rolls at the same time. And with both of them, I think this is going to be a normal roll, a normal DC of 12. And I think for Clara, it's going to be wisdom being her stat to cast priest spells. So she gets a +1. But she also gets a +1 to priest spell casting. So she gets a +2 to this roll. And for Zoran, I'm going to use strength. He gets a +2. And he is going to use his grit. So he gets advantage on this. So I'm actually going to pull out another one. So these two will be for Zoran. And this one will be for Clara. Okay, Zoran got 9 and 16, and Clara got a 12. So 16 plus 2, 18. He succeeds in helping the village folk rebuild and sweep up and sort of move the debris away and stack wood back into where it needs to, kind of help you clean up the town a bit. Clara, 12 plus 2, 14, succeeds in casting her spell the number of times that she needs to do it to heal those that got injured in the violent storm. And so that is them sort of abstracted into them doing various tasks around to help do their part to take care of their fellow townsfolk. And then we cut to the next morning. As the next morning, they gather their supplies and they head out of town. And now they know that the grasslands area is a risky area in terms of traveling. Risky every 2 hours. I'm going to be rolling a die, a d6 die, which I think I'm going to use this one. This one is going to be the random encounter chance, the 1 in 6 chance. So I'm going to roll this every 3 hours. And as they leave a tree fall and they have their goods, they have their supplies, they have their rations, they have their torches, they have their armor, they have their weapons, and all of that. So, what are they going to do immediately? Well, they need to find out where Brianne was going to be going, since Zoran understood that Zoran left of her own accord due to a bad deal, and knowing of the various seedy background type of things that he had connections with, he might have a few ideas. So I'm going to have him do a wisdom roll to sort of track and try to find, using his knowledge and observation from his background, trying to find a location that this lady might have run to. Most likely it's going to be a hidden place. So there are going to be a couple of rolls, sort of a understanding of the layout of the area, which I think that Zoran really hasn't really traveled too much, and neither has Clara. So Clara definitely was village bound, 100%. I'm going to ask the Oracle because I don't know. With Zoran's background, would he have left town to do any of his cult initiation sort of things? I'm going to give this a straight roll. I don't know. A 12, so that is a yes. And it's a yes. So he probably knows some of the area. His first inclination is, well, where are good places to hide? Now, I'm thinking it might be up by the hills, the foothills, and maybe up into the mountains. And as there is a trade route that runs from their town through the mountains, that is the direction in which they head. Travel in Shadowdark is fairly simple. It is 4 hours for each 6-mile hex, and then if it's difficult terrain, you basically double that speed, or rather, double the time needed. So if it takes 4 hours for walking, it would take 8 hours. And they're going to be going into a mountainous terrain which is difficult, but the grasslands itself is not difficult. So to traverse from the treefall area into the mountains, it's not going to take too long. It's going to take up until about lunchtime to get into the next hex, but it's going to take at least a few hours. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll a couple of times while they are walking through the grasslands area on the road. So it is a risky hex, but this is a known route, but it is still dangerous. So I'm going to roll this every 2 hours. So I'm going to roll this twice while they're traversing from Treefall through the grasslands into the mountain hex itself. And so let's roll this a couple of times. 6, and the next couple of hours go by. The next 4 hours go by without incident in terms of needing any sort of... there's no... Oh, what's the word? There's no complications that prop up. And so they spend that time talking and getting to know each other. Personally, I'm very bad at dialogue and interpersonal communications between characters. I'm fine if I'm a player talking to another player, but as a soloist, I've always found it very awkward to do. But what I will say this is that Zoran's history or background has definitely come into light during these investigations and everything. And I think Clara, being a little inquisitive and a little more keyed in to people's behaviors, is going to ask Zoran, how did you know to talk to those people about the black market or whatever? Or a deal gone bad. A deal gone bad doesn't sound above board for a butcher. Don't they just sell and deal with meats and hides? And, Zoran is, again, like I had established, straightforward and forthright. He goes, well, I was part of a cult in my younger days. And being as such, we dealt with a lot of shady things and shady people. So I must confess that is where my knowledge came from and where my intuition was knowing to ask certain people. Now, Clara of the Cloth is taken aback a little bit, but, says, well, hopefully you can find solace that the knowledge that you have learned is yet a new path for you to follow. And maybe Ord will guide you as he does me, right? So she starts to spew her religious stuff on him in a very light manner, very careful. And, Zoran nods and thanks for the conversation, but he kind of clams up after that a little bit. They sit down and they eat one of their rations each. So during their sort of extended lunch, if you will, they each consume a ration for the day. and that, I think that is where that conversation is during that sort of cooking of their lunch and talking about it. And this is like right at the foothills, sort of right before the mountain hex itself, which I can show right here. So they have walked basically from the outskirt, or about the middle of this hex into, I don't know, is he's going to go into 11 or 23? I don't really know. Let's just do a 50-50. Is it going to 11? Yes or no? 6. No. So 23 is the hex that this is, the road goes into. There we go. So I'm going to update our points of interest here. Actually, hex 12. So 23. So the village, there is a road, a trade road leads into hex 23. Okay, so now we know that there's a road from hex 12 into 23, and that is the trade road that they are walking on. And they have set up a temporary sort of lunch camp, and I think that Zoran is going to take a look around and kind of see if there's any sort of spots. So she's actually going to make her own little investigation of the area. After she sort of uncomfortable, made Zoran uncomfortable, she's going to get up and walk away, and she's going to roll intelligence. The DC on this is going to be hard to find just by looking around. I feel that if they spend the rest of the day, they probably would find something, and that'll be up to the party to decide in a moment. I just want to have her look around. 7 plus 0. So I believe that she finds like footpaths of other side paths that probably lead off to ranches and other private landowners areas, and not anything that leads to like a private unknown or secret location. The things that she finds are just other footpaths that you would go to someone else's house, that kind of thing. And she comes back to camp and tells Zoran, I just don't see where this lady would have gone. And leaving in such a hurry, she probably didn't take too much with her. She would have had to stop somewhere for supplies, for water, for food. Where would you guys have gone for your sorry to say this, but your little rituals? And Zoran goes, well, most of ours were out in the grasslands, more west of town. More east of town. We didn't come into the foothills nor the mountains all that much. In fact, about a day's travel up the mountains here is about the furthest I've ever been. And so, with that being said, they start walking and looking around, and I'll say that they find some sort of indication on where somebody goes when they don't want to be seen. If it's Brianne, I don't know. But because they are actively searching for signs, and they're spending the whole day to do so, I'm going to make them have it's a success. I'm not going to lock the story beat behind a dice roll. That is a big no-no in all RPGs. You never lock a story beat behind a dice roll. But what I am going to do is, while they are in the mountains, they are taking a much longer time traversing in Hex 23 in these mountains, which I still need to name yet. And I'll figure that out probably off camera. But I'm going to make a few more rolls. And this particular hex that they're coming into is risky. So again, a few more hours in to the rest of the day, I think I'm going to have 2 more rolls until they have to stop for the night. So we're going to have 2 more rolls, a 3 and a 2. So as they're traveling through this area, nothing spectacular happens, but I do want to sort of set the stage and set the tone of the area, which I know for a fact the area there is like a sleeping dragon somewhere. So I'm going to roll on the mountain encounters table, mountain, and sort of populate this hex with something that, if anything happens, these are the types of things that might happen. I like doing this sometimes, mostly for me, to spark my creativity on what might happen off screen or without the character's knowledge. but not necessarily just because the characters are there. That's one thing that I, as a GM, struggled with for a long time, with nothing ever happens until the characters are there. And that just doesn't make any sense, because obviously things are happening in the background, but honestly, you don't need to bookkeep all the background stuff. But what I do like for things like this, especially hex crawls or point crawls, is while the characters are traveling, and even though no encounter has happened, there are still things happening. So I want to roll up to see what might be happening in the background. And indeed, it might be something that involves the characters, but it's not a complicated or an altercation or a combat or anything that needs rolls. It just might be a blip in their day. So let us roll 78 on the Mountain D100 table. Hobgoblins on Griffins throw javelins at the PCs. So I'm actually going to make a note that there are hobgoblins on flying griffins in the area. So let me go to this area and let us roll. Let's go to here. Notes. So I'm going to write hobgoblins riding on griffins in Hex 23. So we know that this hex is populated by hobgoblins, at least riding on griffins, and if that happens, that's great. If not, that's also fine. It is the 14th, I believe, and this is session number 2. Okay, so what we have here is the traveling goes okay, and they find a place. I'm gonna have them roll to see what kind of place, because if they find a great place and camp setup is going to be easy for them. If they don't find a good place, it might take them a few hours while they set up places, and I might have to roll for them for an encounter while they're setting up camp. So I'm going to have a group sort of roll, and we'll take the average of both. And it's going to be a normal DC of 12 for them finding a good spot. And I know this is more of a wisdom-based thing that they're doing. So I think this is going to be... I think Zoran has a +0 on his wisdom. Yeah. Zoran has 0 and Clara has 1. Zoran is 19 and Clara rolls a natural 20. We have our first natural 20, which means, according to our Shadowdark rules, which thankfully I have just read this earlier today, that... oops, that is right here. Natural 20. So natural 20s, we're going to give our characters a luck token. Yes. Yes. Okay. So, we're going to give them a luck token each. Actually, Clara is going to get a luck token. So, how do I want to mark luck? Because luck is interchangeable. And it is something that I feel could be... This means that she finds the best spot possible. And I believe... I'm going to roll on... I'm going to ask the Oracle, is there a boon here? And if no, it just means that it's a good spot. But if yes, this natural 20 will have given them something, and that's like the fortune's favor type of thing. So I think I'm going to have luck, and I'm going to have 1 on there for her. And then I'm going to write luck up here for him, and he has 0. So normally every character can only have 1 luck. In solo mode, I'm going to allow my characters to have 2, but they can't use luck in the same role more than once. So if they want to spend a luck point to make an advantage or re-roll a damage roll or something like that, they can only spend the luck and re-roll it once. They can't spend it again to keep doing it. So it helps them in the long term, but it can't be banked up for one big moment. So I think, what are they going to find? I think they're going to find. Actually, what are they going to find? She finds, I feel, because they're in the mountain, I think she finds like an alcove, an outcropping of a jagged stone that has a recess in it. And they step in, and just as the sun is starting to set and their legs are starting to be tired, that natural 20, this outcropping with an already set up camp, burnt out and cold, but there was a camp that was already made here. And so this must have been used for traveling purposes. There are signs of people have already used there. There is straw up against one of the corners, maybe used for a bed, for a mount or a service animal or cattle. And there is a spare flint and steel by the campfire. So obviously it's been set up to be used as a transient camp space for merchants and traders and adventurers like our company here. So I think I'm going to say that natural 20, I'm going to ask the Oracle, does this cave open up into something else? And I'm going to give this a likely chance of 14. Yes, and. Okay, so I'm going to write here on the notes. I'm not going to write it here during my session here, but the travel camp alcove contains a secret entrance. Exclamation point. So this secret entrance we will have to get to in the next session. Mostly because I need to wrap things up and do go online and meet a friend for our 4 Against Darkness session tonight. But I'm going to wrap up tonight's session with Zoran and Aclara setting up a wonderful camp. And they've already eaten for the day, so they don't need to eat their ration for the day. I'm going to roll a d6 for the time that it took to travel and to find the space to set down. And one more roll, and roll the 3. Okay. So, as they bed down, Aclara, in the corner of her eye, feels like a wisp of wind on her eyebrow, and it kind of flickers a bit, and the campfire kind of waves a bit, and she looks over and sees Zoran already kind of falling asleep, starting to snore. She sighs and thinks it was literally just the wind outside. But a small kind of faint waft of fire that smells different comes from the corner of the alcove. And she looks over, and there is a small slit underneath a massive stone rock that seemed natural. But there's definitely light underneath that alcove. Uh-oh. What's that? Well, we will have to find out next session. So until next time, folks, I'll see you on the flip side. Peace.